Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sinister of the Gamer section bringing you another interview with a dev. And not gonna waste your time. But like before we begin, if you like the content, be sure to leave a like. With that being said, go let our guest introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Rafael Estrada, otherwise known as Super 8-Bit Rafa, and I'm a lone developer of Unichrome, a one-bit unicorn adventure game that's coming to all consoles, PC. It's a game about a rainbow unicorn with a triple barrel shotgun, cute as hell, and tough as nails, pretty much.
Already. Well, yeah. Before we go into your game, uh, probably go back to the beginning. Like, what got you into gaming?
What got me into gaming? I mean, that's kind of a tough question. I feel like isn't everybody into gaming, right? Like to me, games is like the one universal language. Really, people talk about math being a universal language. People talk about art being a universal language, music. But to me, I think play is something that everyone understands. And when I say everyone, I don't mean just humans.
Hmm.
I have two little cats that and one of the ways that I communicate with them is through play, right? It's not something that I ever had to teach them. It's just something that everyone kind of just knows since they're like a little child, right? I don't know if they can appreciate music or visual arts, or if I put on a movie for them, I don't know if they're gonna, get anything out of that. But I know that for sure when I play with them, like they understand, I understand. Um, I feel like games are just like that universal language. So, like, how did I get into games? I don't know. I feel like I've always been there. I've always been kind of creating games, whether it's like on the playground, making up my own rules to Foursquare, or coming up with different games on paper. I always used to do that a lot with my friends. Or even in computers, like computer games. I don't know if you're familiar with Mugen. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mugen.
Music, yeah, yes,
It's like a fighting game kind of thing, but everybody
yeah,
can make like their own character, and you could like download a bunch of different characters and mix and match. Of
yeah.
course, most people use like pre-made character art, like they'll rip it from like Street Fighter or whatever game, King of Fighters, and so it basically becomes like an everyone versus everyone.
Right.
And that's a really good way if somebody's out there and wants to get into game development. That's a good way to start because it's a low barrier to entry. It gets right into all the fun stuff. From there, I went on to like RPG Maker, stuff like that, which again has a very low barrier to entry, and it gets you right into making things right away. And from there, it just I don't know. It just kind of I don't know how I got to this point. It just kind of it's happening now, I guess. Um, I don't know if that answers your question.
Uh, Hey, like I said, this your interview is basically, I'm just learning everything about you. But as far as like the Mugen, yeah, because like, for example, like the one I came across is like Marvel versus DC. Like
Right.
it's basically like Street Fighter with superheroes and villains. Like seeing Superman versus the Hulk or Spider Man versus Batman. So on and so forth. Like seeing games like that, it's like, oh, this is really cool, and try them out. But as far as like growing up, like, did you have favorite games growing up, like whether it be arcade, console, or computer?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing the Atari. I think that was the first console in our house,
Yeah,
which is
same here.
before my time. I don't know how or why we had an Atari at our house, but there was this old black and white TV that we had too, and that's what would hook up to the Atari. Um, and I was just hooked on that Joust. I remember Joust being like super addicting to me as a little kid. Eventually, we got like a Sega Genesis, and I went through that whole generation of games. Sonic the Hedgehog, 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles. Streets of Rage was one of my favorites too. What else? Golden Axe. Street Fighter, of course, at our house. I grew up with like a bunch of older brothers. I have 3 older brothers and an older sister. And they'd bring, their friends over, and we'd have like little tournaments of Street Fighter.
Right.
Back then, it wasn't like Street Fighter now, where everybody knows how to do the moves. Back then, if you knew how to throw a fireball, like you were basically breaking the game, pretty much.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much where I come from. So if you look at the stuff that I make, that's what I'm trying to recreate for other people. I know people growing up nowadays won't have that same arcade experience of going to an arcade and like discovering new games. I remember going and seeing X-Men versus Street Fighter for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even think it was real. It felt like such a bootleg thing. I thought for sure it was like some sort of hack or something, because there were some arcades that were like hacked and they had like different stuff hacked into them. Especially there was like old King of Fighters arcades that were hacked. So I want to recreate kind of that experience for this new generation. So all my games they're pretty arcade inspired, where they're very action oriented and have old school graphics, and they rely a lot on dexterity and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention this early. Like, where you're from originally?
My parents are Mexican. They're from Mexico. I grew up in California. Right now, I'm in Lexington, Kentucky.
Wow.
But I've pretty much lived in California my whole life. Yeah.
Wow. Actually, I rode down the road from you. I'm in Versailles, Kentucky.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we were close by.
I know. We could have just done this in person.
Right.
There's like a storm right now, so I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't have been a good idea.
I know, because we saw the severe storm. I was checking how long it's gonna last. And I was checking the reports. It said like 5:15. I was like, nothing heavy at the moment, but still keep an eye out. But
yeah, I thought my lights were gonna go out a while ago. They were flickering, so I didn't know if I was gonna have power for this. But
yeah, same here.
So good.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, just like you, I had an older brother. He started gaming before me. Like I said, first console in our house was basically the 2600. Started with that, and we go ham like when it comes to combat or air sea battle, which is basically one of my favorites. Then of course arcades, that started from there. Like also like you with with the fighting games like Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, like the King of Fighters. Like we had a bunch of friends over. Because my cousin and I, we have like Tekken Wars. Like I said, man, it's great. But other than that, just what led you to create the Unichrome? Where did that idea come about?
So I mean, I would love to say that I like came up with that idea, that it's just something that came to me one day. I think that's one thing that people think of, like artists or creative people. They think, oh, inspiration suddenly comes and you get that great idea, that light bulb moment. Wasn't anything like that at all. There's these things called game jams. I don't know if you're familiar with. For people that don't know, a game jam is like it's like what they call a hackathon, or like a 48-hour competition to see what you can create in a very short amount of time. So you have 48 hours and they give you a random theme, and the theme isn't revealed. But when the theme is revealed, you have 48 hours from there. Sometimes it's 72, sometimes it's up to a week. And then you try to work really fast and create something from the theme. The theme for this game jam was Rainbow Unicorn. And so I had no idea what to do. I'm not like I wasn't a unicorn fan then. Now I am now. So I was like, what do I do with a rainbow unicorn? How do I make it appealing to me? And I thought, well, I've been wanting to do a platformer. I've been wanting to do something kind of like Mega Man. I really like Mega Man.
Right.
So that's I just kind of went with that. I said, I'm gonna do Mega Man, and just instead of Mega Man, it'll be a unicorn. Um, and the original version of that, and you can probably still find it online.
Right.
The unicorn didn't even have a gun. The bullets just came out because I just didn't have time to draw the actual gun. 48 hours is really, really fast.
Right.
And I decided to do, black and white art, pixel art, because I thought that would be really quick. I wouldn't have to color things in. Pixel art is obviously something that can be done relatively quickly. But then making it black and white, it just makes it even faster. And so that's kind of where the aesthetic came from.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's kind of the origins of that. From there, I started to notice that once I put it out there, it was one of the more popular games that I had made. I had been making like a bunch of little game jam games for a while now, but none of them really caught steam. Like maybe like 10, 15 downloads per game, and this one took off. This one was like, people were making YouTube videos from it. And you could still find those old YouTube videos. There's one little kid who was like freaking out. They were like, I love unicorns. Oh my God. They're like screaming at the top of their lungs. And so it quickly got up to, I think, about like maybe like 7,000 downloads in like a week, which was like, for me, was like crazy. And I didn't know what to do. I would watch people on Twitch play it. I'd watch people on YouTube. And I was literally like hyperventilating because it's a weird experience to see somebody play something that you've created, to see them experience this world that you built on a whim, right? It wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't even really my idea.
Right.
It for me, it's very nerve wracking. And then to see the downloads just like go up like that, just like that hockey puck up, because
Like going through the roof.
yeah, I was really nervous, and I didn't really know what to do. So my first instinct was, let me try to make some money off of this, and I changed it from a free download to like, pay me $5 to play it, and I saw the downloads just go straight down, and I pretty much killed the momentum of the game because I didn't know what I was doing, because I didn't know how to leverage the audience that I had. So I pretty much shelved that idea for a while, and then I kept prototyping. I kept making about a game every week. I've made well over 60, maybe up to 100 prototypes. And when I was tired of doing that, I thought, okay, I'm going to take one of my prototypes and try to make that into a full game. And I went back to Unichrome, and I thought, okay, this game was successful. This game, there was something about this, even though it wasn't my favorite game.
Right.
It's something resonated with other people. And I think it was that it was the juxtaposition of a cute little unicorn that was like shotgun blasting enemies. I think there was some sort of comedy to that, something funny about that, that made people go, huh, what is this, right? In addition to that, the gameplay, I think, was something that was very addictive. So I went back and I added a gun, and I added more levels, and I kind of cleaned it up, added some menus to it, and I pitched it to Xbox. They have a program called ID at Xbox. It's independent developers at Xbox, and at the time, they were basically, anybody could pitch to them a game, and so I did that, and to my surprise, they were interested. They sent me. They gave me some support. They sent me some dev kits for free, which, talking to other devs, it's like kind of rare. Usually you have to buy those.
Yeah.
So they had faith in me, and so that was like my wake up call. Like, I gotta I gotta do, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this right. So, um, you know, and so here we are now. It's not only coming to Xbox, but it's gonna come to Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, PC. Yeah.
Yeah, like on PC, is it gonna be like Steam or Epic, the Epic Store?
So it's gonna be on Steam, and it'll be on itch as well. We haven't announced that, but it's gonna be on itch as well. So if you know itch.io, there's a lot of indie games there. The difference between Steam and itch, Steam, it's all locked to your Steam account, and it's all has what they call DRM, right? So on itch, everything is DRM free, so you get that exe file. You can burn it on a CD. I guess nobody does that anymore, but you could email it to your friends. You could share it if you really wanted to, right? And the other thing is, all that money goes to me, right? So on PlayStation, on Switch, on Xbox, on Steam, they take 30%. So every platform, usually they, right off the bat, everything you earn, 30% is theirs. That's in their pocket. That's why they were so eager to send me dev kits, because you know,
so basically it's like, all right, we give you this, but hey, in return we get that.
exactly, yeah, because they know it's going to be money for them in the long run.
Right.
But itch is not like that. Itch, you can keep 100% of everything that you make if you want, and it's up to you for how much you give back to the platform. So that's really nice. So if you really want to support devs, go to itch and buy the games there. You could also leave a tip and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, that's cool breaking it down between, the difference between, Steam and itch, because basically Steam's like been the king, go to when it comes to indie games. Like, I mean, it's great out there. Like, especially, shout out to Xbox for helping you out, like even, giving your dev kits. But moving on to Unichrome, like I was gonna get to what did you use to make this game? Since Xbox gave you some dev kits, like is there anything else that you used to help polish it?
Yeah, so the game is made with Game Maker Studio, which is um a, a game engine, right? So there's different types of game engines that are free for people to use. Unity is a big one. Unreal Engine, I'm sure everyone's heard of that. Game Maker is specifically tailored for 2D games, and it's something that I'm like more familiar with Game Maker than probably any other engine. And I mean, other than that, yeah, that's pretty much what I used. I ended up having to completely remake the game from scratch because I wanted to run at 60 FPS.
Right.
And the original Game Jam version ran at 30, which was fine. You'll see a lot of games, especially like retro games, that run at 30, and it's no problem. But there's a few benefits from having it running at 60. One is you get an extra little bullet point there in the store page that says runs at 60, which the platform holders really like PlayStation and Xbox and stuff. So that's one benefit for me. The other thing is in the gameplay, I can make the bullets go faster. If it runs at 30, then if they go at a certain speed, then it kind of starts to look choppy, the animation. You start to notice the frame rate. At 60, the bullets can go faster, they look smoother, and the gameplay is smoother and stuff. So I really wanted to do that, optimize it for that. Yeah, and then a lot of play testing. I went to a lot of events and showed it to people in person. Unlike other mediums, I think a video game is not complete until you put it into a player's hands.
Right.
So there's this idea that in order to make a game, you have to program two computers. You got to program the computer that you're making the game in, and then you got to program the human brain. That's the second computer, the brain of the player. So you need to have somebody else there to play it, to see how they react to things, to see how they interact with things, to see where their experience diverges from the intended experience that you want. So playtesting and having people play it either through Twitch or just live in front of me was probably one of the most important things in developing the game.
That's cool. Yeah, like moving on to the presentation, like for the game is there like still shots like or cutscenes like probably to explain the story or show your progression?
Yeah, so there was originally going to be no cutscenes. I wanted there to be some type of a story. I do believe that games can be a storytelling medium, and I feel like that's really being explored right now. How to tell a story through interaction. So I didn't want the action to ever stop. I thought I could tell the whole story while you were playing. That didn't end up being possible. So there are hand-drawn cutscenes that I drew myself. The story I wrote myself. At some point when I was developing the game, somewhere late in development, it was a conversation between my girlfriend and I when we were saying, like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, when you pick up a power-up, if you get a shotgun or a machine gun, if, like, the little unicorn, like, giggled, like, all cute, or, like, when you killed something, like, she had, like, a cute little giggle or a laugh or something. And I really liked that idea, like, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. So I tried to get her to do it. I thought, okay, but I mean, she's not an actor, so I kind of realized, okay, I got to get somebody like a professional actor to do this voice. And it was originally just going to be like a giggle or a couple of lines, something like "tee hee, I just killed you," something cute, right? But then I found these two like amazing actors, Olivia and Christina Costello, and I heard their demo reel, and it was like unreal. Like, these are like really, really talented actresses, and I kind of realized I can't like underutilize them. I can't have like such talented voice actors just do these throwaway lines, like a couple lines here and there. So once they agreed to do it, I was like, I quickly wrote a whole script. I edited it. I presented it to them, and we did a whole rehearsal process. We talked about the characters, how they were going to be portrayed, and kind of like an old school radio show, we all got together, well, online. We did this Zoom call, and we recorded everyone as their own character. Me playing those extra characters that I didn't have the money to cast. And so the whole game, even though it's a pixel art game, it's a retro game, the whole game is professionally voice acted, and it's hilarious. Like I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but the game is funny as hell. And so as you play it, there will be some cutscenes, there will be story. It's not something like like, it's not like Final Fantasy or anything. You're not gonna get a block of text right at the beginning. It's just these hilarious little quips here and there. There are a couple cutscenes, nothing longer than a minute. And you always have the option to skip it if you really wanted to.
Really cool.
Yeah. I don't want the story to get in the way of the gameplay. I think that the core of the game is just the jumping and the shooting. And then the humor just kind of adds that little button on top of it, I think.
Okay. We'll talk about the gameplay. It's like, is there like any different gameplay modes, or is just one mode and just go, huh?
So there's a couple different gameplay modes. Yeah. So there's the main story, which is totally customizable to your gameplay skill, or what I like to call gameplay literacy. Some people like us, we grew up playing video games, so instinctually we know this is the jump button, this is the shoot button, and I gotta keep going to the right. You know, like you know certain things you just know from playing games a lot. But if this is your first game, or if you're just not that used to like a bullet hell platformer, run and gun, there are some options there to help you out. There's an infinite ammo. There's automatic shooting. There's invincibility as well. So, and those are things that, like I said, I programmed in through watching, because of watching people play it. I saw a lot of. Sometimes you'd get like a little kid come up to your booth and play the game, and they play the game flawlessly, and I'm thinking like, oh, this kid's not going to be able to play it. But you know, it's a kid that plays games, so you know, they play it through the game and they have no problem. And then sometimes I'd get an adult come in and they say, oh, I've been playing games my whole life, and they grab the controller and they keep dying. They can't even get past the first jump. So I quickly one day programmed in some invincibility, some automatic firing, some other things to kind of help people out if they're having trouble, and it doesn't penalize you in any way. Some games, if you turn those features on, they'll be like, okay, you can't have trophies or you can't have achievements anymore. There's no penalty, right? You play the game how you want it, however you feel comfortable. At any moment in the game, if you feel like, okay, I'm ready to have more of a challenge, you could turn some of those settings off or just experiment. In addition to that, there's extra game modes that you can unlock. There's the story mode, and there is what I'm calling the rogue mode, which is randomly generated screens with randomly generated enemies and power-ups, and you're just trying to see how far you can get, how many screens you can clear. We call that rogue mode. That's really fun. I think that's a really fun game mode. There's also a boss rush mode where they're like these unique challenges where you could redo the boss fights, but they're a little bit more difficult. Either the layout is different, they have more health, they have different patterns, and you have like different guns to fight them with as well. Sometimes limited ammo. And then there's another mode called Arena. And these are also some unique challenges where you just fight different waves of enemies, different patterns of enemies, and you try to get through those with unique loadouts for each challenge. So there's those, and there's also a few things for speedrunners in there as well. If you want to do some speed running of the game, you could turn on a few settings to help you do some speed running. So yeah, so there's quite a bit of game modes in there for sure.
Well, that's cool. Like, yeah, because like I know you mentioned, gameplay of like Mega Man, like, it's kind of unique seeing you like the unicorn, like jumping a different platform, avoiding so many enemies, because you know how like challenging Mega Man is, especially the first one.
Oh yeah,
like, how different areas. But speaking of that, how many bosses are going to be in the game, or without giving too much away?
I mean, yeah, there's about, I think there's 7 boss characters. Some of those characters might have transformations. There's at least 8 mini bosses, I'm gonna say. So there's like there's the boss characters that you see in the story, and they might transform and stuff. And then there's also like these midpoints in each chapter where you have these kind of unique fights. I call them mini boss fights.
Right.
So I think in total there's 16, but it might be closer to like 20 if you count all the transformations. It might be a little bit more than 20, but just about there. Yeah. It's hard because like you don't want to bog down your game to like these numbers, right? Like reviewers want to like give a score to something, right?
Yeah.
It's an 8 out of 10. And a lot of the times people won't, they ask that type of question. How many bosses are there? How many levels are there? But it as a developer, that I have to try not to think in those terms. And as somebody I'm also marketing the game myself, I have to try and not think of the game in those terms as well. I One of my things and one of the reasons that I like to do like conversations like this is to try and give people a little bit of context. I'm just one guy.
Right.
I'm the guy. I made the game here at my desk in this room. I don't have like a team of people. I don't have a ton of money. I don't have a ton of experience. It's literally me, just like some guy. I made this, and it's coming to console. So I think it's important for people to have that context, and differentiate from a big budget game, right?
Right.
Like and I say the same thing to Twitch streamers, because they'll stream, Cuphead or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just came out,
Yeah.
and then they'll stream my game afterwards, right? And I have to tell people, okay, well, that's a little bit different, right? Cuphead, I think, $150 million.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a franchise from the '80s. It's like this. These are big games. They present themselves as indie, but it's not the same as me. I'm indie, and then they present themselves as indie, but we are not the same. Like that is worlds apart. And just to give it a little bit more context, it's like a comparison. Let's go to a different medium, like let's say movies. If you go watch Infinity War at the theater, right? It's not the same as watching like a movie that I made with my phone.
Right.
If I make a movie with my phone and I get it onto the theater and it's playing there next to Infinity War, even though they're both playing at the same theater, which is an accomplishment, which is like it's never gonna happen in a million years. You should still go in there with that context. There's a difference between watching, Blair Witch Project or those first Robert Rodriguez movies where he made them with like $2,000, his home video camera in like 2 weeks. There's a difference there. There's a distinction there, and I want people to go into my game. I'm not trying to lower expectations, right? I'm just trying to give people some context. It's not going to be The Last of Us. It just isn't. It's not going to give you 100 hours of gameplay. As an individual, I just literally cannot do that. Not in this game, right? So I feel like it's important to make those distinctions right from the get go. Like don't expect this game to be 100 hours, and expect it to be an indie game. Expect it to be an experience from an individual, and that's it.
All right. But my next question is, say like this game succeeds on all platforms, like they were like plan on releasing like expansions, like to expand the game for longer player time, or like DLC, or just probably just save the money. You want to move on to like a new project or possibly a sequel. It's like either one of the interests your mind.
Yeah, so this is like become my platformer here. So in order for me to make a sequel, it would have to be justified on like the programming end. It would have to be like a whole new platforming engine that I've created for me to do like a full blown sequel. But I would, if you purchase this game, I would say expect updates. There's one update that's already in the pipeline, which is sort of a little side quest or like a new episode, I would say. So it will have some unique dialogue. It will have a new enemy, which is I don't want to give it away, but it's a crossover with another indie game. So that there will be new stories as long as people support it, as long as people buy it, I think I will continue to give these new episodes and new updates because there are weapons in the game and there's gameplay moments that can be further explored. Specifically, there's a dash mechanic, and
Right.
people who have played the game, everyone goes, "Ooh, this dash is really cool. This dash mechanic is like fun." Uh, and a whole game can be made around that dash mechanic. So that's one of the things that's going to be explored. There's an ice beam. This is a weapon that turns characters into ice, and then you could jump on their heads and you get springboarded. Um, that's another one that like really needs to be expanded. Like that could be a whole game just on its own. And then platforming in general, like this is a run and gun game. Um, so I didn't really do a lot of like moving platforms or like bounce pads and stuff like that. Um, so those are three things that I have planned. One of which is already in the pipeline. It's coming, and those will all be free DLC. You know, expect to buy this game and then have a couple of little content updates coming in the future. If it does well enough, I don't think there will be a need to do like Unichrome 2. I really don't expect that to ever happen.
Right.
Um, but you might get that with these little content updates. You might get that Unichrome 2, that sequel, the return of the villain, some more adventures to come. I did hint at in the story some other unicorns that are alive in this universe, and I want to be able to explore that in the story and in the gameplay. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. All right, all right. Well, I guess this will conclude our, the interview.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. I mean, I could keep talking.
Well, basically, you broke down everything. So I know probably don't. I know probably, probably don't want to give too much away. Like for those who are interested, it's like, hey, you gave us a little tidbit, but 'cause- but yeah, but other than that, yeah, it's been great interviewing you. Well, before we head out, like you want to give a shout out like where everybody can find you at.
Yeah. So, everyone kind of lives in their own social medias, right? People live in their own city. People live in their own social medias. Uh, I usually live in Twitter and Instagram, so you could find me on Twitter and Instagram or YouTube. Super 8-bit Rafa, all one word, just like it is right here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, hopefully you don't crop that out.
No,
So
it'd be
just like that, Super 8-bit Rafa. Search for me on those platforms, and I update all the time. I just put out a video where somebody was played my game on Twitch and I turned it into a drinking game. So if you want to see me get hammered drunk, turn my game into a drinking game. If you don't want to see that, then maybe don't go in there and look. But there's a lot of fun stuff that I post on there. If you're interested in game development, there's tips I post. Or if you just want to see what I'm up to, what the next game's gonna be, I encourage you to go check it out.
all right, all right. Well, this concludes the show. Of course, I'm your host, Sinister. You can follow me on my social medias, Conchu19, which is my Twitter handle, which you see on the screen. And you also can follow me on Instagram, which is Sinister1019. Other than that, this concludes the show. I hope y'all have a good day and stay safe out there.